What's up, Gloucester Township? I'm Joe Allen, here with Keith Gibbons, and this is the Restore GT podcast. But this is the new segment we're doing, which is called Inside GT Talk.
It's a little bit different. Today we're going to be going over some of the social media posts that happen on Gloucester Township Talk. Yes. And what's the other one called? I can't remember the name of it.
Well, there's Gloucester Township Talk.
There's like 17
Gloucester
different...
Township Talk. There's two different versions of Gloucester Township Talk. There's Gloucester Township. There's What's Up GT.
It's
there's
raining.
There's about four. And they got stuff falling off the walls. And... but this is not our normal podcast where we do township council meeting recaps.
Yes.
This is pulling stuff off of the talk pages and then covering news on what's going on in Gloucester Township.
Yes.
Idea kind of came from a
there was post. A viral post kind of that came out recently. I think the question was, what businesses would you like to see in Gloucester Township? And it spurred an entire whole thought process of, hey, there's a lot of things that happen on social media, whether it's Facebook or whatever, about topics that happen, and it could be as simple as the Dollar General got robbed, or what kind of businesses would you like to see in Gloucester Township? And that's literally the topic that we came up with here.
Yeah, that was the one. There's actually been several big topics since that one, but nothing, I can't recall anything that has reached, right now I'm looking at it right now, 585 comments.
That's nuts. 585 comments. And it's
normally I'd say we'd cover, the top 5, top 10 things, but this one has
that's a special impact.
It's a special on itself just to do that. So outside of our normal council meeting recaps, we're also going to bi-weekly do kind of an inside GT talk.
Yeah, it's not just this particular post, but this particular post spurred the thing that, okay, they might not all get 500 and something posts, but there's topical things that happen in town that are not governmental functions or anything else. But since we are the number one podcast in Gloucester Township, I mean, not to pat ourselves on the back or anything, but we could talk about these things and have some more commentary about it, and bring some talk to topics.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with this post, so on the Gloucester Township Talk, the abbreviated version, there's two different ones. One's like written out completely, but Joe Damico posted, "Good morning, citizens of GT. I'd like to start a list of businesses we don't currently have in GT, but probably should in a town the size of ours. Here are a few." And then he gives a few options of different towns here, and that was the start of it. So for this podcast, and
well, I saw this post and I thought right away, I kind of know where this post is going, and I don't know that everybody got what the question is, and that's kind of how every topic is that kind of comes up on social media. Is you interpret it the way that you interpret it, but what does the person that's actually posting it mean, right?
Right, because it was kind of crazy, because some people were like, that guy's running for office, I'm definitely not voting for him, he wants to build in this town. And it was like, nah, that's not the vibe that I got. And other people got different vibes.
Exactly. There's different vibes that you get reading something that somebody said, and it's not necessarily what that person meant.
Yeah.
So because of that dynamic, or whatever you want to call that, we actually felt like, hey, we know the person that wrote this post. We can reach out to them. And there's many other people that, in the future, too, that write posts that we could reach out to bring on. So why not start this kind of segment of, the Restore GT podcast of, what's it called now? I forget again, too. It's the
Inside GT Talk.
Inside GT Talk. Let's start this as a whole nother topic of, something that we can bring to the town. We know Joe Damico. Let's bring him on. And then in addition to that, we also had, we have a friend that's...
we don't give it away yet.
Oh, all right.
We don't give it away
all
yet.
Right.
Let's
excuse me. Excuse me.
The first guy.
We brought Joe Damico, the guy that made the post on.
Joe,
and
tell us, Joe, tell us who you are.
I'm Joe Damico. If you know me, I ran for mayor last cycle and running for council this time.
Okay.
When I ran for mayor, we talked about the downtown Blackwood area and what it has become and what it has not become, and what it should be, really. And that was a pet project of mine, or things that I took kind of personal, and something that I would really like to attack. And we over here we are 2 years later, and we haven't seen anything. There's been some lipstick. All right, we've got a little bit of lipstick, which we got some. Coincidentally, there's some awnings that we advertised on our last campaign, and we got some artwork, but nothing of sustenance. And so so when I was sitting around in the morning, I said, what could go there, right? What else could we have? What else should we have in a town? And that's kind of where I was looking at it. And I try to think of because of the proximity we have to so many other municipalities. It's wild that the kind of businesses that go there versus the kind of businesses we get here, and it's like we're the same size as Cherry Hill, right? We're the same proximity to Philadelphia. We're even a better location. We're closer to the shore points and everything else. So why is it? What are they doing better than us?
Yeah,
right. What do they have to offer that we don't have to offer? And what are we doing as a town to bring these businesses in, to incentivize them to come in there? And it's like, a lot of the responses we had was, 5 minutes up the road we have that, and it's like, no, 5 minutes up the road someone else has that.
Yeah, right.
Right? Why don't we have that? Why not us? When's it going to be our time?
Gotcha. So
okay, so that's that's a great top, and that's how I actually read what your post was. Is that exact thing? Is I got it, but other people didn't get it. And not that I'm smarter than anybody else or anything. I just read it a certain way, and that was kind of the whole topic. And I know, Joe, you also were the same thing. Is why is the mall over here? Why is this building over here?
Yeah,
and I know in personal experience and in listening to other entrepreneurs and investors and things like that, why you don't invest in Gloucester Township.
Yep.
And a lot of there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of there's certain roles in the town that kind of throw roadblocks up for for different reasons and things like that stop somebody from saying, you know what, I don't care. I'm still gonna capitalize on the the community that you guys have here. I'm just gonna do it over there because there's less problems. There's less red tape. There's less.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Whatever,
we'll definitely get into that because that was a kind of a big topic that's kind of been coming up for at least a couple of years now.
Yeah.
But in this post, with in this discussion, I saw a lot of great back and forth. And then I saw a guy in there that was commenting on the post, and I text you, and I was like, man, it would be cool if we could get this guy on the podcast. And you're like, I'll text him. And then I was like, no way, he's gonna come. And then, so full transparency here, he came last Friday. Came on the podcast. We had a great podcast. Joe wasn't able to make it. Ray Henry, our friend Ray Henry, was here to do a podcast, and I screwed up the audio.
You did.
So
I've been meaning to talk to you about that.
We lost an hour and a half of it, and I was devastated. I messaged this guy, and I was embarrassed, and I said, look, I didn't get the audio on your side. And he goes, I'll come back and do it.
He's a good dude, man.
Look,
he understands. He knows, how this all goes. Look, we had struggles tonight. Even there was probably a good hour that we were struggling to get this on. People don't understand how much goes into doing this podcast. This is the amount of work that you and I do to get this off the ground. It's a lot. We have no help or anything, but Mark understands that. He's a one-man show. We have a two-man show. Mark is a one-man show.
I was a fanboy of this guy for years before he quit his job and did this solely on his own.
Yeah.
So I gotta introduce a guy that I'm a huge fan of, Mark from 42 Freeway.
Oh, there I am.
there he is.
You already gave me an excellent introduction. Wow, guys, thank you so much. You need to take a shot of and put it in the video of the setup you have here, Joe, of all the cameras. It's just an amazing setup you guys have. This is Channel 3 holds nothing to you guys. Thank you for inviting me along. I'm Mark from the 42freeway.com website. I write about new things. As the name indicates, the original concept when I created it like 9 years ago was, you have towns of Belmar, Defford, Gloucester Township, Washington Township, Winslow, that are along Route 42. And I notice as when I moved from Belmar to Defford, which is an important thing. I'll just say that I'm a Defford resident. I'm sort of here representing just the industry, I guess, as a whole, and what other towns are doing. Right. So I'm not even a Gloucester Township resident, but I noticed that, like, I think to the average person, you're cruising up and down 42. You just kind of see things the same in some regards. You'll shop at the Defford Mall, you'll shop at the Gloucester outlets, and then you'll shoot down to Washington Township and pick up something there. But no one was really representing things in that regard. And that's where the original catalyst, I guess if that's the right word, for the site came out. And then I had a knack for finding things early and getting them out there and getting people excited about it. And so now it is my full-time job, and I've expanded into, so I'm covering into Cherry Hill. I just did a post on a new brewery in Riverton. So I'm in Riverton. Literally, my largest story this year has been the Atlantic City Water Park, which Facebook tells me over 1 million people saw that on Facebook, just to brag a little bit. So I'm all over the place, but literally the 3 towns of Defford, Gloucester Township, and Washington Township are absolutely my nucleus. So I'm hoping to add some insight beyond Gloucester Township. You guys are saying, you're talking, Joe, about your downtown Black Rose Pike. Look, let's be honest. Pittman right now is hot as hell. And 8 years ago, nobody even talked about Pittman. So, outside of any sort of political realm, what did they do right in Pittman that has that downtown booming? And what can a town like Woodbury, their downtown in Woodbury, or Gloucester Township do to get things jumping? And I'm all aboard talking about those types of things.
So Pittman, what they did, they have about, the way the liquor laws work, you for every 3,000 people, you're able to have a liquor license. They have about 8,000. So they opened up, they opened up 2 of them down there, and obviously you had the Merriman's, the old bank, and then you have Martini's, which is right next to, and works conjuncted with the Pittman Theater, right? Same owner, the Pittman Theater, and that kind of, I think, just shapes the landscape down there, and from and what they have down there that we used to have is a theater. You have a draw, right? So and with that draw comes dinner. It goes ice cream afterwards. It's coffee before or after. So you have to have those kind of staples that got to bring everything in. Like when you see where there's a hospital, like, whoa. In a lot of in our conversation on Township Talk, they were like, why would we want a hospital? Well, our outlets were supposed to be, we're supposed to be hospitals, right? So of course, are they a great rateable? No, but everyone else that has to surround that. All the specialists, all the all the private practices, the restaurants, and all the things that service all those people in hospitals need to eat. Right.
So sometimes it's not necessarily the business itself that like a hospital, for instance, right? They don't bring in tax, rateables and things like that, but it's the things that are attracted to setting up shop around a hospital. So it's almost a planning stage around other commerce and other rateables that you can get in the town. Is that what you're? That's what you're saying?
I mean it's that, and it's also to your point earlier. You were talking about how businesses that are outside of our municipality can capitalize on our demographics.
Right.
Which is, I think one of the best examples of this is PJ's. So PJ Wilhan's, they buy liquor licenses in areas that are really, really nice areas. Like there's no liquor license in Haddonfield. Right. So they buy one right next town and call it PJ's Haddonfield.
Yeah,
same thing with Morristown. That's in Maple Shade.
Right, so Morristown's Maple Shade.
It's in Maple Shade.
It's a Quaker town. There's no liquor license.
Exactly. So it's there, that proximity, to that demographic and utilizing it. Yeah. It's a smart business thing. So it makes you think, why are businesses using our demographic but doing it from outside?
And that's exactly what I read out of reading your post before seeing other comments that are on there. And it's like, what is it about? And the downtown thing, like I'm a little bit of a nerd, as far as a lot of things go, but local government kind of thing is one of the things that I've become a nerd more so about than some other things, and all the different downtown businesses that we kind of want to have in town either don't exist or are like off the beaten path. And when I say the beaten path, I'm talking about the little downtown Blackwood from, I don't even know, what was that, Davistown Road all the way kind of up to like where Skeeters is over there.
Sure.
Like, that's our, I think what everybody classifies as downtown, right?
Downtown,
Like,
yeah.
you know.
And, it's funny. It's funny because I was talking to, and this has been the same situation for my wife and I, but I was talking to a former GT resident on Monday, and he kind of disappeared, and we had no idea where he went, and
Paul?
and he popped up. Yeah, as our friend Paul.
Paul pieced out. He's
Paul,
like,
yeah.
dude, he left pictures of his family on the wall in his house. Just like, I'm out of here. I'm done.
I was chatting. I was chatting with him. I was chatting with him on Monday, and I'm like, ultimately, what did you give up hope? And he said, look, my wife and I, we like to go out and we like to explore. Whether it's culinary or
Right.
or arts or whatever, we like to go out and do these things. And it just occurred to us that none of what we did was in Gloucester Township.
Right.
We were always going out somewhere else. And then I had the discussion with him. I said, a lot of times when I go out, with my wife and I were just out on Saturday down in Swedesboro. We go down there, the restaurants down there. And I said, yeah, it's the same for me. We don't do anything in Gloucester Township.
Right.
And it just kind of came to the point where, we either fix it and we have it in Gloucester Township, or, I don't know, do you just move somewhere else and go on, or but that's what this was kind of about. This discussion was about what we don't have and what we'd like to have to keep people in Gloucester Township. And to get people from outside of Gloucester Township in Gloucester Township.
Think about Collingswood and what it's kind of surrounded by, right? It's kind of they're tough areas, right? So it's an area, Mount Ephraim and Camden. You're right up against it, and somehow or another they figured it out. They figured out how to get businesses. They figured out and listen, there's capacity issues down there. That's small. There's parking issues. Right, that it's difficult to park.
Parking is a huge thing.
Parking's a huge thing, but the argument for that is that I've always, it works in the city, right? It works in Philly. They don't have. There's not that many restrictions on that. I think we have self-imposed, problems that we make it more difficult, for business to come in, where you go, hey, we're going to figure it out because commerce is more important than. Just having the excuse built in and that parking is too much of an issue.
Is it an issue, or is it something that people make an issue? Like, I know, look, I'm a snob when it comes to events or going out somewhere or something. Like, Mark, I know you can attest to this. Like, I make a phone call and I got a front row spot to to somewhere. I'm
connected.
I really thought you were an entertainment kind of guy. I just thought you would roll up anywhere.
I cannot handle mentally knowing that I have to like parallel park or I have to go find a spot in a parking garage. Like, I literally will dwell on that for like a week in advance if I have to go do that. Right. It's just something that I can't deal with.
Oh man, I did not take
whether it's going to like, I'm total snob with that. I can't. If I had to go to Collingswood, I have to know that somebody else is driving, that I don't have to mentally deal with that. But there's been like conversations around this with downtown Blackwood as far as like creating parking locations for people like myself who can't deal with with those type of parkings. But somehow Collingswood has been able to to figure it out. And I've gone many a times and patronized many a places in Collingswood, and I haven't seen an issue.
Do they have
with
off-street lots too? Do they have like an off-street lot?
That I don't know, Joe. I'm
They
not
have
sure.
the benefit of the Paco speed line station.
You're right. That's
So
100%,
they have a
that's
lot
what it
of
is,
park.
yeah.
You know, and typically the person on Paco is like a 9 to 5 going to the city to work. So in the evenings and the weekends, those parking lots are empty. So they do have the win.
Yeah.
Westmont. You mentioned PJs. The Westmont, or I'm sorry, Haddonfield PJs. They all have those train stations. I mean, so it helps them in that regard. But it is a tough challenge. Pittman doesn't have a lot of parking over there, and they find a way. They have one little lot, I think, on the corner.
I mean, unlike it, but Collingswood has a unique thing where it is very, very densely populated. Those houses are big, and there's a lot of them.
Where's that, Joe? Where
back beyond Collingswood, on the when you get back into the neighborhood side, not the Paco side.
100%.
So plenty of times we've parked 2 or 3 blocks away, and that's just what you have to do if you're gonna come down and experience it.
Right.
Some of that's part of the experience.
No,
It's the
and you're
adventure-
100%
it's the
right.
adventure of it.
I'm bringing my own personal, problems into it, but you're 100% right. It's nothing you can't find the spot. It's just not as convenient.
No, I'm the same way though. When I think about downtown Blackwood, sure, there are probably plenty of places that I can park there.
Yeah.
But when I think about downtown Blackwood and any events that they're having there or any places I want to go there, my first thought is, where do I even park? I don't even know. Right now we've got the luxury of Rite Aid's closed, so the Rite Aid parking lot's open right now.
Right.
But outside of that, if Rite Aid were open,
The library.
But even
A lot
that,
of people park at the library.
you
park
have
behind the library.
Correct. I don't remember why I was there, but I was in Station Ave over on, is that Haddon Heights, I guess it is?
Yeah.
so station,
Yeah, I had to go over there the other day for something. I went down, and I'm like, this street literally is more narrow than the Black Horse Pike is. And there's cars parked on either side. The only difference is, I believe that the speed limit is 25 versus I don't even know what the Black Horse Pike is.
35, I believe.
It might be 35.
Yeah.
So, my daughter she plays on the national level on volleyball. So I travel a lot throughout the country to, attend these tournaments. I can't tell you how many times I've gone from a location here to go here, and I had to. I'm on a road that's 50 miles an hour, 55 miles an hour, and then slow down to a 25 mile an hour and go through the town, and it's all built up, and everything is, there's commerce going on, there's restaurants, there's all kinds of shops and everything, and then once it gets past that, move on, and that's kind of how I see the Black Horse Pike, and I understand that that's a state road. Like, people don't understand the difference between state roads, county roads, township roads, township roads, and all that. It's not impossible to turn the Black Horse Pike into a 25 mile an hour zone. The Black Horse Pike used to be, the means of transportation to get to Atlantic City.
Yep.
It's no longer. Like, we have the Atlantic City Expressway.
Right.
Like, the fork's been invented. We don't need to use
Yeah.
chopsticks anymore.
Right.
It's one of those.
But in comparison, though, when you think about Merriman's is an old bank. And my first thought was, we've got an old bank.
We had an old bank.
Yeah.
And we have a couple liquor licenses that are in pocket.
Yeah.
They're things that could have happened. So,
Yeah,
And not even the liquor license is in pocket. Like, there's the concessionaire license option, like Merriman's took. And I think, Mark, you know more about this.
You know what? You mentioned we did the podcast version 1 last week, so I had a chance to speak to the folks in Glassboro. And I don't know if you're aware of this. Well, they have the beautiful Rowan Boulevard complex, which obviously the university was a big part of that.
Yeah.
There are 3 restaurants there that are serving alcohol. None of them have a traditional license. The way it works is Glassboro owns the land,
Yep.
and they have a lease agreement. Someone else owns the buildings, the student housing and whatnot, and all the retail level. But because Glassboro owns the land, all of those liquor licenses are state-issued concessionaires permit. And so the person from Glassboro, like, she wanted to be very crisp with me. She says, we literally have nothing to do with those licenses at all. Like, it's no different than I think the analogy I gave is like, in the Meadowlands in North Jersey, like if there's 100 food vendors in the Meadowlands and they all are serving beer, there's not 100 liquor licenses. They all just have this like general concessionaire license. So in Glassboro, they're actually using that to have, not only, chicken pizza, La Scala, and Mexican mariachi, good for them, but it's just actually I give them credit because it's just another way to think through a problem of how do you get around the limited amount of liquor licenses we have.
So what do you believe that is attributed to, going that route versus you have to have your own liquor license, Mark? Like, so I understand, like in Camden, for instance, I've spent almost my entire career in the city of Camden, which is the amphitheater down there, is where I've spent mine, right? And the county owns the land and the state owns the building. So the concessionaire license comes into play, right?
Gotcha.
And when you're dealing with a town like that, what is the benefit to a town, do you believe? And I know Mark is involved in many towns. Like, he goes to
Yes.
many different planning boards and everything. He's not a Gloucester Township person like we were saying before. So he kind of has a perspective of kind of what works in what different towns. But what is your perspective of the benefit of using that, or like why they use that, or do you have any idea around that?
Sometime in the 40s, New Jersey passed this sort of changing liquor license law, and they set the number of licenses, say for a restaurant or a bar, at say 3,000 residents.
Right, and that's what Joe was mentioning.
And Joe was
earlier.
mentioning that.
Right.
Now, so a city like Camden, cities that were already thriving in the entertainment area, Gloucester City, has a huge amount of liquor licenses because, the docks were booming in the 20s before this law came in. Wildwood was a huge entertainment resort, in the 30s and the 40s. So that's, Wildwood has, there's probably like 6,000 active residents in Wildwood year round, and they have like 40 licenses down there.
Right. Yeah, I think Riverside is actually in the Guinness Book of World Records for the number of bars and liquor licenses that they have per capita. Now.
It's
totally,
totally
but it was
possible.
based off of something that happened so many years ago.
So what's happening is the laws are based on the resident population, not the commercial population, right? Or the commercial impact. So you take something like the Deffert Mall, your outlets even, or look at that Rowan complex. They're building this massive complex. Well, they didn't add any new residents. Well, they did build apartments and things, but they didn't add enough residents to create new liquor licenses. So the town had to come up with another way to be able to offer liquor licenses to businesses. So there's other things in play there, but I think that's the core gist of it. And I think we've all heard these stories, and they're legitimately true. Like Cherry Hill being a hot town. People have paid $1 million just to have a liquor license, just to open up a restaurant. It's huge. And then meanwhile,
in those towns, they only have so many licenses that they have, and because it's based off of the population, that's going in there. That's kind of what Joe was alluding to earlier. And then you get to, Joe, you were mentioning something about the Gloucester Township having a few pocket licenses, which are kind of based off of somebody owned a license. It has value to it because it's a license. There are only so many issued, and that ended up drawing into a I don't know what you call it, like a commerce kind of thing. Like there's a value to it,
Sure.
So somebody's going to hold on to that because they might be able to sell it to.
I just saw
Red
one.
Robin.
Yeah, I just saw one on LoopNet for $325,000. There's they're out there. They're for sale. People are holding on to them. The problem is it's a crazy proposition right now in the way of a gamble, because if Murphy does what he wants to and deregulates these things,
100.
now for the people in Cherry Hill, the Capitol Grills that paid $1,000 for a full on broad sea license or whatever sort of license they have.
Million.
Yeah.
But I say
you said 1,000.
Oh, I meant $1 million. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They spend $1 million now. Jim across opens up in the same parking lot for $100, and that's the thing. So locally, someone like Lance down at Skeeters, that's been in their family for years and years and years.
Yeah.
So you deregulate that, now you just water down their business, and their hold on a market share that they've earned and maintained over time.
Well, I mean, that's kind of one of the things. So he's got, if his business goes away, he still has $1 million liquor license that he's got.
No, he had.
Today.
No.
Well,
Today.
If he had it in Cherry Hill, it'd be $1 million.
But today he's still got. I mean, he still has that big value. If the business burns to the ground, he still has a liquor
There's
license that he
a
can
license,
sell.
right.
But with the new thing, and I think that kind of got kicked off with the breweries coming into town.
Right.
And the breweries kind of struggling to be able to do what the restaurants are doing, but not pay that absorbent amount of money. Is to where now I think the idea is we give those businesses like tax credits so that they can kind of make up for that money that they have invested in their liquor license.
Sure.
Well, so Joe, I think we have the perfect person to talk about this here in studio with us. It's Mark. He's probably visited more breweries locally.
After this
know.
is over, I'm filling out an application to be his
Associate.
his brewery associate.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I mean, that's an excellent point though that you're bringing up. Is those breweries are so, their hands are so tied. Everything in government in general, I guess, is a red tape, right? Like, how can you get to here? You need to do X, Y, Z, TP, X3, and everything else around it. Breweries are so hand tied around what they can actually do that they're struggling along the way of how can we make this work. You mean we only have so many days we can turn the televisions on?
Well, the fact that you have to walk in, they have to give you a tour.
Right.
And then they kind of got around that by handing you a diagram of the brewery.
Yeah, or putting
and saying,
a video up.
This is how
something.
we make beer. And if you've been to 50 other breweries, you're like, I know how to make beer. You've got to go through that process, and then they can't have they can't have sports on now.
Right. Or it's an event.
So
and they only allow so many a
it's
year.
considered an event. They can have a food truck, but they can't advertise the food truck. And I think that has to be a certain amount of feet away from the brewery. It's ridiculous.
It poses a question: who makes this shit up? Like, where do these laws come from? And that's a problem when you have bureaucrats and so on. We're not delving into politics too much, but it really does get, it comes a political issue.
Yeah,
it's not by nature. I mean, it's just one of those things that just because of how it.
I mean, hit sometimes at some point. I think it might have been last year, maybe the year before. But at some point, New Jersey hit like 100 breweries, and then we're seeing a lot of them. A lot of the big ones in this area are gone now.
Right.
So a lot of the big ones. I think Kelly Green was one of the biggest ones. Was one of the ones that had gone away. Lunacy just went away.
Lunacy's, yep.
And they were great people. You go there, and they were fantastic people, and it's you wonder. I don't know. Did the state just not help enough?
Well, that's my point. I think that it's the role of government should kind of be evaluated in this, right? So government should be conduit, right? It should be a means for businesses to get there and to help them kind of be successful. They should not be creating. They're not going to create any sort of businesses. That's not their job to do, right? It's to make sure that you're there, you're open, you're functioning safely, right? And then you're providing some sort of exchange for those goods back into your community, both in a way of patronage and what you're able to offer the town to offset those kind of things in our ratables, and these are the kind of things. But when you get in the way of, and this is what I didn't love in our downtown when we decided to take over the bank. And the bank would have been a perfect brewery. It could have been an anchor and a start to a restaurant district and stuff. So we took two buildings that have been, even though they were vacant, that have been paying taxes to the town for years and years and years, up until the time they were built. And then we acquired both of them with our own money, right? We get some grant money and stuff.
Right. So once we own them, we no longer pay taxes on them, right?
Right.
So it's a 100%
the inverse reciprocal, right? So now you not only did that, you paid to knock it down, you paid to remediate everything, and then you're going to pay to rehab a bank, and then you're going to constantly maintain it, which the taxpayers have to do it, as opposed to a private industry coming in and taking over that debt service, or that sort of that labor burden.
Yeah.
I just wrote this week about a new brewery in Riverton, up in Burlington County, Brewery 33, and I literally called that out. So this building was like a maintenance building. It was it had 5 bays for trucks and things, and it was like they let it overgrow, and it was a great location. There's a small downtown, just like your Blackwood. There's a Riverline train station there, and these people came in and they opened up a brewery there, and it's beautiful. Now they're waiting for the license to get approved, but like, it's just common sense. You could just see this is going to change the neighborhood for the better. It's going to introduce people to it. People are going to take the river line. And and my commentary in the article was, this is exactly what I think New Jersey wanted when they approved breweries, whenever that was, 20 years ago. Like, hey, use them as a catalyst. Now, we're not saying that breweries are just the automatic answer, but it's just, what can we do?
But it's a means to start some commerce and some, not conversations, but, start some...
Yeah,
some commerce, really.
It's innovation.
Right, exactly. It's innovation, Joe.
You figured a way to start a whole nother market. And from that, you have people like, Joe over here that's a big beer guy and really delves into the nuances of it. And there's a culture that kind of came out of this. Right. And we're missing out on that culture. Right. What they did over in Tonewood, I'm a contractor. So I've been in that lumber yard. I've been in that lumber yard 1,000 times. Right. And to see the change in what they did and the renovations and what it does to the community, and now you're actually drawing people in, rather than rather contractors. People are coming from out of town. It goes back to where our point to the whole premise of this thing was, why Barrington? Right. Why not Blackwood?
Right. Yeah,
that's
right. So that's
what I was saying too.
You're good point, Joe. Let's reel it back in here.
Well,
why are people building in other towns versus building in here, whether it was a few years back or currently?
Yeah, I mean, I just saw this too, and it was just one of those things that I thought, what if this came up a year later? Maybe what if there were different people in office that they could maybe work this deal out? But one of my favorite New Jersey breweries is Magnify, way up in North Jersey. And they just released that they were coming to South Jersey. Man,
they're going to Medford, I believe.
I get so excited, and they're going to Medford. And
I believe I've learned that on 42 freeway.
Possibly, yes.
You might have learned that from me, actually. but I thought, man, what if somebody here could have talked to them and said, look, what's Medford offering? What can we do for you to get you here? You really need stuff that's above and beyond now to stand out, and I think that they are that brewery. That would have worked down here.
To be able to jump back in. Well, go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say, here's a point we haven't talked about that just popped in my head that I think kind of ties the stories together. There was a nice little local bar in Glendora, which is Gloucester Township, called, I think it was Bruno's Glendora Grill.
Yeah.
Okay.
That building is now apartments, right? So that liquor license was purchased by, there's a third catering hall, and God bless them. I wish them all the success. But all the way down Evesham Road, most people think it's Magnolia. There's like this old historic home there, and they're turning into a catering hall. So that's another topic on its own. Like, why do catering halls need a full license? Yeah. But my point of bringing this up is, big Gloucester Township, 65,000 residents. And you read the comments. People want Cheesecake Factory, and they want Olive Garden. They want and why didn't someone snap up that license that probably went for $300,000? I'm not saying this negative on the catering hall, but their revenue streams for a liquor license is probably like weddings on Saturday, right? So they don't have the same revenue stream. So you got to believe that they got it at a favorable price. So why did that happen? And even Washington Township had a bunch of liquor licenses floating out there for a while that nobody were grabbing on. So I don't know the answer to that. Like, how do you in Cherry Hill they're tripping over each other to hand somebody $1 million for a license.
Right, absolutely.
Whereas
I think the township has a few here, right?
Right. So we have I think we have 21. We have about 20 or 21 total.
Township owns a few too, right?
I think Township has one. There's 3 in pocket total.
Yeah, there's 3 in pocket as well. So
Bertucci's is open. They closed.
Right.
I think there was a Ruby Tuesdays license. Like, they bought a license here, and they just never opened it up.
That's 100% true. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's 2. I can't think of the others right now.
Amanda's Bar None. That one got picked up. They opened up the Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
Down there, and then they had to pick up a liquor license. Yep. I think they got that for $200,000. So,
Wow.
it just goes to so here it speaks to it, right? So the value is what people are willing to pay for it, and that's the free market.
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand. But
Yeah.
but not only that, you couldn't buy a liquor license for $1 million here and make it work for you.
No.
And you can in Cherry Hill.
Right.
There's the issue.
Right.
Right. So what are we doing? It always goes back. What can we do better? Right? How are we setting up? How are we structuring our? There's a master plan in this town that's been around forever, and it doesn't have a plan, and it's never been executed.
Well, and actually, we're updating it now.
Right.
There's actually
We're paying consultants again to
right. We're
do it
paying
again.
consultants to update the master plan, and it was actually told that basically we're not going to let the residents know. They can come to the meetings to find out about it, but it's not really a public discussion. Although it's our town, the public's town,
Sure.
and we're not discussing it publicly. You can come to a public meeting if you want to discuss it, but that's kind of how it just goes around here. Either way, I know we're not trying to get into this whole.
Yeah, it's just one facet of a lot of things. By the way, I just want to say I don't know where I got this reputation of being this beer guy. I mean, it's
Here it goes.
I don't even like beer. It's my job. I have to write about the new restaurants and bars. It's, this is a wait. You told me this was a Coke.
Oh, nope. Sorry.
There's no Cokes in this house.
I got another thought that's just coming to me about Black Horse Pike.
Uh-huh.
So we're focusing on the core center district, right?
Right. Sure.
So on one hand, they're doing, I think it's called Blackwood West, the
Blackwood
Makers
West
Village.
redevelopment. Yeah.
So you got something happening that seems interesting. It's completely unique. I don't know of any other town that's trying to do that. We could talk about what that is.
Makerhood.
And then on the other side, when you get down closer to Sam's Bar, you have the construction company that just bought all that lands. And I don't look. I try to balance it. I don't want to speak negative of business, but I don't know how you can turn those properties on the Black Horse Pike into sort of storage areas for your construction business. So you got two different stories there. You know what I'm saying? You got something where we're trying
100%.
where I'm indifferent, but Gloucester Township is trying to do this Makers Village on one side, and then what's happening? Likely the construction firms holding on to those properties for something bigger to come along the way. Maybe Lidl. Lidl finally comes.
Yeah,
and
it was a talk about Lidl.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I still think it's
they
coming.
own. I believe it's.
Lidl.
And I don't pretend to know all the numbers, but I believe there's 16 lots. I believe from that what used to be Red Apple, which was where the apartments that had burned down, all the way down to Davistown Road or Lakeland Road, I guess it is.
Basically where the car wash is.
Yeah, where the
there.
Lidl's supposed to be. So that AP Construction, which is a little further down Davistown Road or Lakeland Road, I'm not sure what it is, they had purchased all of those lots. There was a lot of controversy around making those areas an area in need of rehabilitation or I always forget these terms. Confused,
That'd be a
but-
redevelopment zone. Yeah.
yeah, they tried to get that using the bike path that was behind them there.
Gotcha.
But you're correct. They've now turned it into they just put fence up around a lot of it and they just store a lot of construction equipment.
Right.
And there's a couple of rocks that they put out on the Black Horse
Right.
Pike that I believe that's maybe supposed to be some kind of landscaping or whatever. But they know something and they're holding on to it.
Yeah. And I say this because in sort of a positive way, if I'm sort of, I want to see something nice happen there for your
Oh,
town,
yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not that far away. I'm right on the other side. I'm in Denver, but I'm on the other side of Lakeland, so it's close enough to me that if cool things come up there,
Oh, absolutely.
I'm going to win to that too.
Yeah.
We were talking about the people in Gloucester Township having to go out. I'd be happy to come over into Gloucester Township and spend some of my dollars there.
Yeah,
so.
that's what we want too.
Yeah.
We want this to be a destination, and we're trying to think of what in Gloucester Township is a destination for people, and I can't think of anything.
Well,
the outlets.
You have the
The
outlets.
outlets, yeah. The outlets is
So-
unfortunately though, the outlets. I was thinking about the outlets earlier as a destination, and I thought a couple of years ago the outlets were a great destination. I could go there and I could buy a lot of things. I could buy clothes for work, casual clothes. My wife could do the same thing. Now there's really no men's stores left. They've all gone away. Outside of Under Armour, which is basically
Nike,
everything I own is now Under Armour because it's the closest place I can go. But dress clothes and just regular casual clothes, you've got to go somewhere else now. So now they've kind of lost that too. I mean, that's probably another discussion. Why did we lose the businesses and the outlets?
I mean,
Well, because tax abatements is a whole other topic. That.
well, yeah. Once
I
we
don't
hit
know
the
that
5
that's right for this
well,
podcast
once
here,
we-
but
once
we can
hit
talk
the
about
5-year
it.
mark, though, that a
They're
lot of the
paying-
places went away.
I think they're paying over $1 million in taxes to the town. And people are all mad about the abatement, the
the
5-year
pilot program,
abatement.
sure.
Well, where are the people at the council meeting that are saying, "Hey, where's the money going that we're collecting from these outlets?" I'm trying not to be political, but like I
Right.
think of those things. That's 50% of that money's going to the school district, 25% is probably going into the town, and 25% goes to the county. It's a typical mix.
not pilot money.
Oh, the pilot money. You're
pilot
right.
money,
that all
pilot
goes
money
to the
doesn't
town.
go to schools at all.
Well, it's gone. We're done that now. So
Does-
Right.
yeah,
So we're through.
we
we're
reached
through
that point.
Right.
Does GT carry that on after the 5-year stepping payments, or I don't know?
Well, right now they're paying full.
They're paying full,
I think,
okay.
and I think they've been paying full since 2020 or 2021. They've been paying full now, and I think it's $2 million.
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah, it's pretty. I think it might be $2 million. But yeah, that was kind of also when we started seeing the drop off too.
Right.
So there's the chicken and the egg. So now you have, townships getting what they want, right? We're getting full ratables, and we're bringing money in, and everything that taxpayers say. Well, we have all this infrastructure that came in. When do we start seeing the value in the way of our tax bill? And then also what happens is when right around that time kicks in, the rents go up. Right, so all these people
Well, and when rents go up, businesses leave. right?
leave.
Businesses leave,
leave.
and that's kind of the problem with
That's
tax
the chicken and the egg.
abatements in general. I am 100% for tax abatements to get business started in there.
Mm-hmm.
However, I also know that there's a 100% chance that you're going to fail in
With the first 5 years.
retaining business in those places there.
Sure.
And even when you have townhomes and things like that have tax abatements, that tax abatements are a double-edged sword, and you have to deal with both edges of it, right? It's a great way to get people in there, which is what in Gloucester Township we use as a tool to get businesses in. However, on the flip side of it, they can't survive here when they have to actually pay what our taxes actually are because of everything else that's going on here. It's a really
So this
big
was a
thing.
conversation we had the other day. We had a meet and greet, and people were talking about pilot programs and how they're bad because the money doesn't go to the schools and so on and so forth.
True.
Right. So and I go, okay, well that makes sense, but for commercial businesses, they're not using the school. Right, and so they're bringing in, they're paying infrastructure, they're making capital improvements to land or existing buildings, new builds, which come with all kinds of site plans and everything, and all the impervious surface, all the things that they have to contend with in order just to get these things open and to start to try to show a profit, and then you got 5 years to actually try to establish, your own market share, So the pilot programs, I think, have a lot of value in the commercial sense. For builders, on the other hand, all those townhomes and everything else, there's a certain amount. There's going to be certain amount of, income because of the Mount Laurel rule and stuff. There's certain amount of it's going to have to go. It's going to have to be low income, and it brings a tax burden into the town because there's more people. There's more schools. There's more police. Everything. So I think the pilots need to be looked in two different ways, right? Commercial is never going to hurt you. It's like when AOC said she saved New York so much money by not letting Amazon come there.
Oh,
Think about it. I saved us $3 million by not letting Amazon come in here.
With their $350,000 tech salaries.
Yes.
And full disclosure, I just want to say I met with the general manager of the outlets literally less than 7 days ago, and he gave me a tour. And yes, there are some empty properties there, but like he pointed out that several of the big retailers have expanded. The Adidas store enlarged their store.
true. I
The
saw
Gap,
that.
I think Nike enlarged their store. God, I should have the list because I'm writing up the post. But there was like 6 or 7 different things we took through. A couple of the places like Gertrude Hawk's, which is a smaller chocolate store. They used to be in the Deffert Mall. She had an interesting story about that experience. I'll save that for later. But they signed on for just like a 4-month lease last summer from through the holiday shopping season. they were so happy with the sales at the outlets, they signed on for a permanent lease. So now they're under like a
Really?
multi-year
Nice.
lease. So there are some stories there. It's it's good to see. Maybe the outlets are like sort of readjusting. Like I think some of those retailer like the malls don't realize we're in this Amazon world now.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and, I think I know we had mentioned before we attempted to do this podcast before, but Mark, you did bring up a really great point that I think everyone in Gloucester Township kind of glazes over, that because we're so used to seeing the Walking Dead scene of Blackwood Clementon Road, that there are a lot of businesses in Gloucester Township that have kind of flourished and come up and have started taking over some of those things. And after that, that recording, even though we didn't air it, but it was an eye-opening thing to me to say, like, you know what, he's right. Like we're all fair people here. I think we're all fair, and I think you're 100% right that there was a lot of things, and the Gloucester Township Outlets is another example of that. Like, okay, yes, there are a lot of vacant stores, a lot of stores that closed, but what about the places that did expand, into those?
I think the story I had was I was on Blackwood Clementon Road, and the new Wawa just opened. I'm just trying to balance things, right? New Wawa opened, and I'm standing there doing a video, and 2 stores down is the new Mod Wash. Across the street's a new dispensary. Giant Fitness is coming in. There's a new Chipotle with the hot wings store and the Mr. Smoothie.
Smoothies, yeah,
and I'm like
smoothie
seeing all
cake.
these things, but literally, I think if you Keith, if you took your camera and you just walked the streets of Gloucester Township and asked folks about Blackwood Clementon Road, I think 99% of the town would say, it's a dump. All the stores are empty. Nothing's
100%.
happening there. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like I have this perspective because sometimes you got to step outside of your world, and that's where I'm
Right.
coming from. And
Right.
like, you know what? There are some good things. And so what happened? That's right. The funny thing is, when I write about this $8 million Wawa being built, and just positive comments, well, another Wawa. The same day, unfortunately, the Entenmann store closed, and literally like 5 people jumped on that Entenmann store, blaming our president, blaming this, blaming that, which is fine. But I'm
President.
like, how do you? How do you?
Presidents.
They literally did. They
We can
literally
blame
did.
them for a lot of things. I don't know about Entenmann's.
Yeah.
It's just time. It's the trickle down of the economy, and I'm like, wait a minute, guys. I wrote about the new $8 million Wawa the exact same day. You got nothing to say about that.
I think it's funny to see the transition from don't mess with our Wawas, don't talk bad about our Wawas.
That is true.
When I moved back in 06, I moved out to Central PA, and Sheets is big out there.
Sheets, yeah.
And
Yep.
and I was like, my heart's with Wawa. And then I came back when I would leave that area and go to areas that had Wawa, I was like, oh man, it's Wawa. But now I'm like, does there have to be another Wawa? Like, there's a Wawa now right in Ariel,
Yeah.
and then when they put the one over there, and I'm thinking, did we kind of get burned out from Wawas now too, or even just gas stations in general? I think that's when you think about Blackwood Clementon Road. You think you don't even consider those places,
Right.
because you focus on it's that damn Kmart. It's
Yeah.
still empty, and that's what people think
Yeah.
about.
They're telling me it's still coming. The ShopRite's coming.
Yeah.
So the landlord, there was some. They're not owning the property. The landlord's still going to own it, and there were some aspects of the development that the landlord had to take over, and there was some discussions around that. I don't know all the details, but it's been part of the delay. They're saying things are going to start happening soon. I don't know.
So I mean, you have to be honest and realize that retail as a whole has changed.
Oh,
right. So
absolutely.
the days of getting a big box store and the taxes are so high everywhere that like these triple net leases you're getting murdered, absolutely murdered. So and so for a lot of these older shopping centers that sit back off the road and are kind of afterthoughts, could be just because the whole way we buy and shop and our experiences has completely changed.
Yeah.
So it's gonna require innovation and things like that. Like I would love to see in a Kmart, or I think moving forward, shared spaces for retail and commerce, where almost kiosk type things, kind of like I think like Reading Terminal Market, right? Where you could have
Wow. Yeah.
Good idea.
So where a Kmart or something like that could have 50 different vendors that are individual now. The landlord's getting he's getting a lot of a little, and these small mom and pop shops, and it's almost a farmer's market of such for small independents that aren't able to go get 12, 15, 1,800 square feet of retail space. They don't need that, right? If they commissary somewhere else and they're able to come in and show prepared foods or confection, whatever sort of thing it is, I think that's the wave of the future in retail.
Yeah, especially now when you get into, and my buddy and I kind of got into a business now where we kicked it off we started on Etsy, went up on eBay, got our own website now. But you think about independent creators and stuff like that, and how big those things are, like Etsy and eBay, and you bring those people into a small section of a small store like that, where they couldn't really afford a storefront, but they could get a small section. And maybe it's kind of like the Berlin Farmers Market's kind of big.
Sure.
Like the stores over there are kind of big for people to start off on. But yeah, like a small place. Like,
I mean, that's a great example of, though, like the start of, like, I don't know how you say it, but it's
shared space.
And I don't want. Yeah, it's shared space. It's
shared space.
It's not and I'm not trying to be disparaging in any way, but it's the start of, like, okay, I have this idea. I'm going to try and bring it out. I can't do it any longer in my home. I need a place to go do it. And guess what? I can actually sell to the public. There's foot traffic. That's kind of the start of it. And that's kind of what I guess what both of you guys are describing here is, a shared space of,
yeah.
That's
I was just thinking, like, how long has the Berlin Farmers Market been around? And
a long time.
1940.
60s? Wow. 40s?
1940, yeah.
Yeah, and it's tried and true. I mean, to the thing that this is my own. Here we get back into the rabbit hole that is the Black Horse Pike. But the thought is that we're going to be a starving artist district, and we're going to think so. The retail homes that are up by Paris Catering. The thought is, you have artists that live upstairs and they come down and they make bracelets and they peddle them on the front porches. Look, I don't know, I'm not an economist or a retail specialist, but I don't see how that's how you build a sustained market of commerce in a town.
I think it's a good supplement.
Sure, I think it's an accoutrement. Sure,
yeah, think about like New Hope. Like, New Hope is very artsy. Mm-hmm. A lot of restaurants, though.
So it's Haddonfield.
So people go there for the entire experience. They don't go there for the art. They go for the whole experience. So you can walk through the shops, you can grab some food, and you can walk through some more shops, maybe grab some ice cream afterwards. I mean, it's the whole experience. So just to create an arts district isn't going to work. You've got to create the entire experience. So we've got to have restaurants in downtown Blackwood, like Shanna's was going to be. I mean, that had such fantastic potential.
She had 3,500 square feet. I mean, her food was fantastic. Obviously it was a difficult time to open up in the middle of COVID.
Right.
That was tough on all businesses, but that was the start of something great. Hopefully, that was something. I mean, but Holy Tomato, it does incredible. I mean, they're there, but they're maxed out in capacity, and they give everything they have every night to the people, but other than that, there's no draw. You got the diner and there's the pizza place, but there's no real draw. People actually go to that area just to go to Holy Tomato.
Yeah, think about it. Think about when you think about breweries, and you think about when you're in a brewery that of course they can't sell food, but you can order food in.
Yeah.
Put a brewery in the bank, and then Holy Tomatoes right there.
Yeah.
Their business will probably triple. And then people have that now. We go down, we go to the brewery, we can order in, we can eat there, and then
and that's what it comes down to. It's not about one business. It's about all the businesses working as a community.
Yeah.
Where they're gonna help everyone. Come along. They say the tides rise all ships. I mean, it couldn't be any more true when you're trying to build a market, and a community downtown, and we failed.
Yeah, and it makes me think
we failed so far.
We failed for a long time.
Well, it makes me think back to one of the things that you had gotten involved in when you got some of the local business owners together in downtown Blackwood, And kind of the disconnect there is you've got a lot of great business owners there, but then you've got all that government-owned property there that just that
was a really interesting
I was there
project for that. It was a I had in the beginnings of starting up a nonprofit that I had for the downtown Blackwood area. I'd reached out to all the the different business owners. Unfortunately, Shannon's was where the meeting place was for it, so it hasn't really gone much past that. I don't have anywhere else for anyone else to meet there. But in meeting all those different owners of businesses, and there was many. There was from the there was like a beauty salon, further up the street. There was a like a thrift store type of a store. I can't remember these people's names, but and going all the way down, there was photographers and a lot of people.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I'd say over a dozen, 15 or so different business owners, all in that area, all interested in how can we all work together? How can we all help each other? And willing to collaborate around different things. But it just was I don't know.
Actually, in fact, it one of the last fundraisers that our campaign did, one of the guys that was at the fundraiser, he mentioned that.
Yeah.
And when I was introducing him to the other guys on my team, and he said, "Oh, I know Joe. Joe was at this."
Yeah.
Was at this downtown Blackwood thing, and then I mentioned your name, and he said, "Yeah, that's the guy that put it on."
Yeah.
So and I think he's got an auto shop down on Hilltop.
Right. Yeah, a little further down, a little past the outside of there, but yeah, it's a really strange area and a really strange I don't know how to get everything together. It's a tough sell over there.
Yeah,
I don't know how to do it.
My thought too is
it's red tape.
That whole
red tape.
That whole area now, that whole area kind of surrounding Holy Tomato is now it's all kind of government owned. So you don't have that individual business owner.
That's what I'm saying.
That says I want to be a part of this community of business owners. Because I remember you talking to me about kind of the outcome of that is that people had services that other business owners didn't know existed, and they were able to kind of start working together.
Yep.
And that's one of the downsides I thought of that government-owned section there was.
Yeah, it's all right. Let's start in this corner here. Government-owned, arts center.
So they're not there giving input into the community, and I think, not that that's 100% bad because we look at Merriman's and Glassboro, and we see what can happen. Yeah. But it's just there is that disconnect there.
So, Mark, besides the Merriman's pub that we keep bringing up here, what other successful projects have you seen in other towns that, in your opinion, kind of have brought the community together?
So one thing that Washington Township's doing, and I don't know the economic sort of sales side almost is where I'm going with this that Gloucester Township has, but Washington Township has an economic person. I don't think she's a full-time staffer. She may be a consultant.
Okay.
But she comes from the commercial real estate industry, and she represents Washington Township in a couple levels. One is, let me tell you, when Dave's Hot Chicken announced that they're coming to Cherry Hill, this woman's probably on the phone with that franchise guy and say, "Hey, have you thought about Washington Township?" So she's selling that. Oh, wow. The other thing is, if you're a small business person, you're what? So many of my stories, it's just the husband and wife. They're chasing their dream. They're going to open their brewery. They're going to open their bakery shop. They don't know how to get around the red tape. You mentioned the red tape, right?
Yeah.
And you constantly get bombarded just when you think. We've all bought a house, right? It's like that last 2 days before settlement, there's something pops up. Well, it's tenfold opening a business. So I think she plays that liaison role, how to help, how to navigate around, how to give. And, I get beat up at times. You're like, "Oh, you're a Washington Township blog." I write a lot about Washington Township because there's a lot of businesses opening at Washington Township. And here's another interesting thing. There's no other town in South Jersey where the residents themselves are opening up businesses in their town than Washington Township. Cool. It's like boom, boom, boom. It's and I always like to call it out because I feel like my readers want to help out. They do. You want to help out your neighbor. You want to help out somebody. And it's so many times I'm writing, she graduated from Washington Township High School. They lived across the street, and so they got something going, and I'm not saying this consultant is the answer, but there's some sort of extra juice going there.
No,
Right?
There's definitely something to it. And that's something when I ran last time. There was something that I am 100% for. I believe in like government should have a very limited role. But like I also said that they should be conduit, right?
Right.
It's for businesses to get open. Now, if you have a consultant and she's going to walk you, here's the permit process.
Right.
Here's how you get through this. I will help you go through zoning. We'll go through this. I'll walk you through the process, because if you're a baker,
Right.
you don't do construction, you don't do site plans, and you don't do. That's not the way you're wired. So what happens is you have so many soft costs because now you're paying engineers, you're paying architects, you're paying nothing, and you don't realize how many how big these soft costs get.
Right.
Right. You're giving money to $2,000 to the town, then you got money you got here, and then it's so much where people go,
And it's not a checklist. It's like when you file for your business permit, they're not giving you a checklist. Here's the things to consider. Like, it just comes at you. I know of 3 different restaurants in South Jersey, neither Gloucester Township or Washington Township, where I talked to these people ahead of their opening, like 3 weeks before opening, and then they were delayed months with huge bills because the fire marshal came in and said, you're going to use that space in the back to brew your beer or do your baking. That needs a sprinkler system. And, so when I go back and they tell me the story, like, she opens up the curtains and there's literally like an 8-inch supply line coming in from the street. She said, I had to spend $80,000 to bring in a supply line because the giant space in the back, I put a bakery oven in or something. I forget what it was.
Sure.
But my point is, you don't want if your neighbor's putting their neck out there, so what are the things that any town can do to sort of lay out those risks and things? And you know what? So here's the thing. This is what happens. These business people, they're looking to start their business. They're not just coming to one town. In fact, in Glassboro, the new coffee shop just opened up. High Grounds. It's the Death of the Fox brewer. He told me, I went to 10 different towns.
Wow.
Yeah, it's Death of the Fox. He went to 10 different towns. Something connected with him. Imagine if your town had this nicely prepared package. Hey, boom. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to consider. This is, just kind of lay it out for them. It's going to give them that warm, fuzzy feeling. I don't know what Gloucester Township's program is in that regard, so it's hard for me to speak on that. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I've not tried to open anything here, but it just occurred to me back in 2004, I opened a pool hall up in Mount Laurel, and we had no prior business experience, and there was no one to help us. Mm-hmm. So we went along and kind of figured out as we were going along the things that we were missing. Right. And it was probably the first year I thought, well, I hope we don't wind up in jail, because I have no idea what we're doing, right? If we're doing this right, or if the end of the year I'm just going to get crushed because I didn't do something the proper way. I mean, and the internet wasn't as great as it was back in 2004, so that you couldn't find as many resources. But yeah, having somebody there, like if somebody from Mount Laurel came in and said, look, here's your checklist of things that you want to get done, man, that would have been fantastic. So it's great to hear that Washington Township has. It's certainly something that I think that we should have here.
And I believe that our it's called an Economic Development Corporation, or
EDC.
Well, it was
Something
the
like
EDC, but it's a whole big thing. They lost their charter and it had to change the name and everything. But it does exist, but it's not a government entity. It's a private corporation in Gloucester Township. It's not something that's
Are
I don't
they?
know how to say it.
Do we know if they're stepping in and helping?
I
people,
don't know that
like,
for
like
sure.
a step by step.
I know it's advertised. There's help out there. I don't know what the help is. It might be better. And look, it's no different than there's food at this restaurant and there's food at that restaurant, and this restaurant's better than that restaurant. So it all depends on who the people are that are in place doing that. In my opinion, it could be whatever town you were mentioning. I'm sorry, I forget what
Washington Township.
Washington Township. Like, maybe that
There he goes,
person
Washington
that's in
Township
place is the person that's the go-to person to help you stumble or help you stop stumbling along the way. But I mean, it is a very important piece to think about. When you're going into business in a town, is you think entrepreneurs. When we're talking about these neighborhoods and all these smaller businesses kind of helping to start up this economy in a town, they don't know the first thing about business. They know about how to make a candle or
Right.
a
Well,
blanket.
To your point, Keith, we just built pickleball courts, and we have someone
Yeah.
from Parks and Rec that's there for all day just to make sure that people scheduled online and are fulfilling their points. So if we have someone that manages our pickleball courts, pretty sure we could have people that could help manage businesses
Exactly.
getting open.
Yeah.
Right.
And inviting business in. We should have we should literally have a salesperson. Just like if you were, if you're-
100%.
you have a salesperson that goes around to Bistro di Marinos and all these, small little, things that go, hey, have you ever thought about doing business in Gloucester Township? I have this location. I have this location. And you work with the owners and you try owners of some of these businesses and say, hey, would you close some of these parcel these off? For all these larger retail space, we'll change the frontage. We're not, we're going to help you with zoning, so we could change the way that these things look, and maybe we go out and we find some energy money to, do the storefront glass and some whatever it is. But you
I
help,
hear ya.
you help. You don't put people on an island and let them, just fail on their own.
Well, and at the same time, I'm also very much against the government being involved in your business. You know what I
Agree.
mean?
Yeah.
People
Fundamentally.
people are in business to be in business for themselves, not to have the government step in. However, like what Mark was saying, it is good to have the government step in and say, hey, did you think about this thing that you need to fulfill to meet the state's requirements for whatever it is,
I
an Ansel system or a I can't even think of another scenario, but you know what I'm saying, like
Yeah, like a proactive approach. of
right,
like,
a proactive approach to like what is it that you're looking to to come in here and do. Here are all the hurdles you're going to come up against. We have red tape everywhere, guys. Like it's not a surprise, but these are our red tape things. Like, did you think about those?
Yeah, and I caught myself earlier by saying that the government of the township didn't help out. And what I meant to say was, as soon as I said it, I was like, "Oh, I can't believe I said that." What I meant to say was, did they get out of the way? And that was that's kind of the thing. Get out of the way, but then also, since most of the stuff comes back to different regulations and different things that they require you to have when you're in town, that's when they need to be completely transparent and say, this is what is required by the town to operate in our town, and then just give that checklist of that. I mean, they don't have to help you with your marketing, but they could help out.
Yeah.
They could promote the entire district. If it were like a downtown thing, promote the entire district,
So
something like that.
I just got done doing a build at Los Scala's down in Brigantine. It was a monster project. Obviously, it's a beach bar. Half of it, was outside. Half it's in. Well, when you talk about towns helping, right? This is how towns help. Get out of the way, right? So
Exactly.
he had to get open in order to get something to keep people going. We got into the summer months. The project was just get bigger and bigger and bigger. It took on a life of its own. So it got to the point where we realized that we weren't going to be able to open up the inside in a reasonable time, but they had to get something in. The town needs it. The inside's 500 people. The outside's another 500 people. People need a place to go down there. So, we didn't have the bathrooms ready. He goes, okay, we need porta pots. And they go, okay, you can have porta pots, and we'll allow you to have porta pots, and we'll get the health inspector in here. You could do food, but it can't be this way. And we ran it outside, down the street, outside. But the town allowed for this, and when we were ready for inspections, they were there right away. And they were there the next day just to make sure that we were able to keep the process moving, right? So that wasn't that's the town helping by not being in the way.
Yeah,
and that's what's important.
I was just thinking about that too when we were in this past weekend. We were in Merchantville, and one of the places that I really like out in Merchantville, Blue Monkey. When COVID hit, Blue Monkey had basically not really a big space. They had no outdoor space. They
It's a
closed
tiny
off.
little place, yeah.
Yeah, they closed off the street next to Blue Monkey, and then they put like canopies out there. It's still there. Like, that street is still closed off, and they still do outdoor dining there because it's just so popular in Merchantville. So that's them helping out, and that business really had nowhere to go outside.
We were just at Dominic's in Belmar right before the Eagles game, so we stopped and we met there, and we they have an outside bar there, and it was brought up during COVID, and they off the back the other thing. So Now it's got a moratorium on it that they have to remove it. And it's like, so for years this was okay, and now all of a sudden it's like you can't do it that way. Like, these are the things that I'm talking about. My buddy, a friend of mine, is the mayor of Woodbury. Woodbury does a cool thing on like Friday nights where they have a beer garden, and there's games.
I saw that, yeah.
So it's a cool thing that they do, and the town makes a little money off of it. And whoever they I think they do a liquor license like for the town, and they get a little vig, and then the people that are running it make money. Like, everybody wins. And they took parking lots and back behind Pet Boys, if you're familiar with Woodbury.
Yes. Yep.
Somewhere in there, and they do that every Friday night or something. And there are things that you could do just to get people in town. If you had a place to go on Friday nights, and you pack it down there because you're being innovative and you're creating something. That's something that government can create. You say, hey, listen, we're going to allow for this.
I don't like government creating anything.
Well,
I like
creating,
government
it's like getting out of the
allowing
way.
other
Yeah.
people to create.
Yeah.
That's what I'm.
Yeah.
We're saying
my
the same.
opinion.
We're saying the same thing.
Right.
Devil's advocate, Deptford has amazing retail presence. We have very little community presence, I feel. We don't have like a downtown center. So when I'm sitting there a mile away from the Black Horse Pike District, I'm like, wow, they got the beer festival at the in Old Town Blackwood. They got the pumpkin festival in Old Town Blackwood. They do these events, and I'm like, damn it, I'm a Deptford taxpayer. I don't have any of this. I'm just being devil's advocate. So there's things that are happening, but there's still more that can happen.
No, you're 100%.
Don't hate me for that.
You're 100%.
No,
right.
no,
Listen,
yeah.
Yeah.
That would be. I mean, if we had that to complement the businesses that were down there,
Right.
If we had businesses down there that would draw people, I mean, man, what a fantastic area we would have.
One thing that I see from all towns that gets a lot of attention, when you go to a planning board meeting, you're going to build a new Chick-fil-A. That's not the first time the town has heard about it, right? They've been working with them for 12, 18 months. It's back and forth. Everything's worked out. So when you hear things about workshops or EDCs and things, those guys I think are getting the attention. I wonder, though, about these little smaller businesses. When you're talking about filling those empty storefronts on the Blackhurst Pike, do they get that same level of attention? I'm not sure how Gloucester Township works, but I feel like some of those people, when I hear the sad stories, it's usually that the husband and wife that are, she makes amazing cookies, and I'm going to open up a bakery, and it's like, they're crushed. I shared with you guys before, I made a comment to someone on the planning board in GT. I said, you know what? One thing about the outlets, there's been no project in South Jersey that got developed so fast. Like, literally, no one knew it was coming.
Oh, yeah.
They made the announcement, and literally the damn thing opened a year later. So it was a $90 million build. And then, you know this, each one of the stores has their own separate contractor. Like the mall just builds the shell, and then the store has to come in. So literally 100 different projects happened in a year. What the woman said to me in the planning board is, she said, Mark, they had like 4 project managers here for a year full time. She says every single day there was someone from Simon in our offices fighting through things. And I'm like, you know what? The mom and pop bakery, they can't do that. So like, is there something more that any town in South Jersey can do to sort of fix that?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of been the thought that I think a lot of us have had in Gloucester Township when we think about, well, what do we really have here? We've got, and everybody complains, everything that we have here is a chain. A lot of our big restaurants here, they're chain restaurants, and everything, dollar stores, all that stuff. These are all big corporations.
Wait, we have a dollar store?
We got a million of those things, man.
Well, you don't have car washes.
There's
though.
a million of them, Joe. But
We have car washes? Dollar General?
Nationally speaking, that is the largest growing industry there is. So I mean, it is what it is. And a lot of times, it's not that you want everywhere, but they do a nice job. They clean up areas. They build a nice thing. They put a nice landscape and maintain it.
Yeah, but they're
and it's a
good.
business.
But they're good at probably they're corporate.
Sure.
So they can dig through. They have people that can come into townships like this and say, "This is how we do things."
Right. This cut red tape here and there and get in.
Yeah, we're not going to listen. We're not going to listen to the township saying, "Look, use our people for this." They go, "No, we have people. This is how we do it." And the township goes, "Oh, okay." Or the small business owner that doesn't have the backing, they're going to struggle a little bit with that. So I think that's why Gloucester Township has a lot of change.
And I think that also leads into another topic here, like where there's a perception from the public, and I'm not saying the public is not as well versed as the four people here talking is, but there's a comment of like, why did like they put that there? Like the township put that. The township has no say. I mean, not no say, but very little say. If the Dollar General wants to come in and put a store right here, and it's zoned for a Dollar General, we can't stop that from happening. Like,
it's tough.
That's a whole nother topic, and
Legally.
people have that like perception of like, oh, the township. Why are they putting that there? The township didn't decide to close Rite Aid in downtown Blackwood. That was Rite Aid's decision.
Right.
That has nothing to do with, you know what I mean? So I feel like there's something to be, I guess, to bring up in this whole topic since we're talking about like what business is.
This is why I agreed to do this podcast, because I think you guys have a very realistic view on things. I did a video that I didn't put online. I literally bought a king's crown on Amazon, and the video was, I am the mayor of the town, and oh, you want a Wegmans? No, we don't want Wegmans. We want a car wash. Like, people literally think that the mayors and the council are picking the car wash and the Dollar General to come. You know what? We talked about this before. When your house is getting bombarded with Amazon deliveries, UPS deliveries, and FedEx deliveries from all the stuff you buy online, it really limits some of the retail growth that you can have. The reason why Dollar General is booming, because that's the kind of odds and end thing. Oh, I need a pair of scissors. Oh, I need an orange. Oh,
and I need it right now.
And I need it right now. So that's why Dollar General's thriving. But anything of substance, you're going online, so it makes it tough to get the great retailers. And to your point, Keith, where I was going is, like the town is not paying. They can do some things. The different mayor has said, look, I've called every major supermarket in the United States and said, we would love to have you in our town. Right. So you can do things like that, but like in the end,
it's their decision.
It's a business.
And as I said, you're not choosing your dance partner.
Exactly.
It can happen. Yeah. Right. So and that's I actually had a meeting with the mayor and we talked at length of this. It says, he goes, Joey, I wish I could bring in and just handpick businesses, and you're going to go here and you're going to go here. But they have free will. Right.
Exactly.
So it really comes down to what sort of condition are we setting that makes people want to come into our town.
And that's kind of where
how do you make yourself
come into place?
How do you make yourself attractive? How do you close those deals? Yeah. And that's the.
Would you guys be okay with so tax abatements are usually tied to new construction. So you got Blackhurst Pike. It's probably a redevelopment zone. The redevelopment entity could set new rules. Would you give tax breaks to the business owners, or I don't even know how they pay taxes to the town? Is there some extra incentive that you would give to someone to take over an existing storefront that's been empty for a long time?
So right now, the entire town is designated an area of in need of rehabilitation.
Okay.
So anywhere that you do new construction, you're going to get a tax abatement.
Gotcha.
But I don't know of any incentives for people. If you do a rebuild of a building, there's an abatement that I believe you get on the percentage of the rebuild that you do.
Gotcha.
But that's everywhere in town. So what kind of bugs me about that is it doesn't allow us to kind of shape where things go. I mean, everybody's going to pick the most popular place in town. That's where they're going to want to put the business.
Right. You want to be on Hollywood and Vine. You don't want to be over on.
You want to go to Cross Keys by Lowe's. That's where you're going to want to be. But then for Blackwood Clementon Road and then downtown Blackwood, there's no incentive to go there at all. So that's kind of what we've been talking about for years now through different people that have run for office here, and they've said, that's one of the things that we need. We need to incentivize people to go to these particular areas and not to the areas that are thriving, but to the other areas that aren't, so that then they become thriving areas.
But I feel like that's also the disconnect of where, I don't want to call them lay people, but that it's laymen's don't understand that the government doesn't put that there, but the government also does create the
incentive,
the incentives and the laws that help that person make the decision to go to that place that you want them to go. It's a really weird thing, and most people in everyday life, they don't give a flying monkey about how that actually works. They just want it to be where they want. They want a Trader Joe's in their backyard. And Trader Joe's isn't going there unless X, Y, and Z are in place, and that's kind of what
I don't want that. I want Wegmans.
all right, Wegmans, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying.
Give me a Wegmans and bring the pennant back.
Yeah.
And the pennant, yeah. I'm a Belmar guy. And then you know what the funny thing is, just for social media, it's like once you finally do get that Sprouts or Whole Foods or Wegmans, there's just as many people complaining. I was in a, this is very, very Gloucester Township. Gloucester Township put. This is Joe's first podcast. He didn't know.
He forgot to switch the camera.
He didn't know to mute his. Oh yeah, he didn't switch the camera. They're like, "Who's this voice coming out of the scene?" But GT put dispensaries up to vote, right? The public decided they wanted, and I think it was like 75%.
Yeah, it was like 75%. Yeah.
So now every time a dispensary comes up for planning or zoning, who shows up to the meeting? It's the 25% that didn't want
absolutely.
it. So if you're sitting there on the board trying to make a decision, you have 10 people in front of you that are telling you how awful it is. So, Kevin Bucciaroni, I don't know if you guys know this, I actually graduated high school with Kevin Bucciaroni.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So he did a good thing. He's like, guys, he called it out. He's like, 75% of this town voted for dispensaries. Now, every single time one comes up, it gets turned down. So
Did they vote for 11?
Well, there's like 13 in play, right?
Yeah.
Right,
There's a lot now.
Right.
So I was going to on a point, like you just also can't make people happy. So when
Again, it's also that if you allow it, and if you don't have a plan and you allow the market to get saturated, look, free market's going to bear what the free market bears.
Right.
But if you overdo it, just like if you would liquor licenses, if you overdo it, there's the thing. You're not giving territories, and you're not.
They're going to fail.
They're going to fail because there's only so many people.
I haven't done the analysis, but I will say that Gloucester Township is the only town that I've seen that does not have a cap on the number of licenses.
Well, that's exactly
really
Defford opened one, and then the mayor just said, "Okay, that's it." But like other towns, Runnymede is 3. They've kind of established. They looked at the size of their town.
We've talked about that at council meetings, and they say, "Well, we'll revisit it." It's like, well, how many are going to be open or approved before?
How many?
When you're saying that there's not a cap on there, are you saying
100
right
people?
now? So there's 3 licenses in pocket, and you go as a new. I don't know. I got Joe's Crab Shack or whatever it is.
I'm talking dispensaries.
Dispensaries.
Oh, dispensaries.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I thought you were going different paths.
Completely different. All right.
Edit
my
that
bad.
out, Joe.
13.
Hey, already answers my question. I understand what you're saying. I thought you were talking about liquor licenses.
No,
You're talking about dispensary
13
licenses.
approvals right now.
Right now we have
for
13
dispensaries.
approvals. Right.
And then we've got
13
how many are
letters
open right now?
of support is what we have.
So the one on Blackwood Clementon Road is going to open. I think
Honeygrow is open as a medical.
Right.
Is that Blackwood Clementon Road, the Friendlies?
Yeah, the Friendlies.
Friendlies, yeah.
So that's just only medical.
Right. You have MPX that just opens, which that's snuck behind. That's on Cross Keys Road. I think it's like we talked about this next to
is that
Primo's.
by Primo's? Hoagies.
There's 2 on. So they're building a brand new one next to the Wawa on Black Horse Pike, on that empty lot, and then one of the giant fitness buildings. I don't know if it's the giant fitness building or the little one next to it. That's also up for being a dispensary. So there's just
and the lot next to it too.
They're literally like 100 feet. I'm not against it. I'm just saying.
Not to mention directly in front of the Hojo. Like the Hojo doesn't have enough issues to begin with.
That's a whole nother.
Well,
that's a whole other argument, but
yeah. So.
Well, that's a great business plan for those people.
We're talking about expanding businesses, and if you had Mr. Mayor here, he would say, "Hey, you want businesses? I'm giving you businesses. They're just dispensaries." It gets twisted.
It's a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
It's tough
Joe,
to find.
do you understand business ratables and all that enough to explain it to the lay person? What do you? How can you explain it?
I don't know that I would be able to. So like, if you have a business,
I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
No, dude, but. Obviously, when you have business, over a certain percentage of what you do, is how much volume did you do, so on and so forth, and it goes there. But you're also paying property tax and all that other stuff.
Exactly.
And, you're paying it through your taxes as well. So, even if you're not paying it, the landlord is,
right,
and you're paying it.
But if the business was, if the building was closed and there was no commerce going on in that business, there's less
taxes.
money that's going to the township for the business that business will be
exactly
generating.
But they're
basically.
still paying the property taxes as long as the value
Right.
of the building. Like, if the building's empty for 10 years and it starts degrading, you would think the tax rate would go down. But they're still paying taxes.
Well,
in
it's
the town.
it's
Is
based
that what
off
you're-
the improvement that's on the building. We've had this conversation before, Joe, you and I on here, where it may cost me. Say I own just me as an example, but say I own a property that has a building on it that's abandoned. I might be paying taxes on that improvement, like the building that's on that property. It might cost me, say, $200,000 to knock that down, but it was really $50,000 a year in taxes to keep that going.
Why do you
I knock it down. I now pay on flat land. There's nothing on that property.
which explains
And then
explains
now
the south
I
end
have
of the
a-
Black Horse Pike.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So which explains why you no longer have a fence company or lumberyard or
Exactly.
whatever.
Right.
It
So
just
you're
cleared
knocking
down.
them
I have no
down.
improvements.
Oh,
And-
now I'm just parking construction vehicles.
Yep.
On
It's
on
part.
the
It's a
property.
an unpaid parking lot.
Right.
Good point. And then you have
less
the
money to have that there. I'll knock it down and be done with it.
you have the other side of the equation, which it's not you guys, but like down in southern Gloucester County, Salem County, you got the warehouse boom going on,
Exactly,
and you have
yeah.
a town like Woolwich. I guess I'm tying this into the ratables. Town like Woolwich, which was like for a while there was the fastest growing town in the country, and literally what they did
Really?
is they just built homes and nothing else. So those people down there are just getting hammered by taxes because they literally have nothing on the commercial side of the ratables.
Right.
And that's, I think I'm bringing this up now because I think people need to understand that. Like, there's people that just don't take the trees down, don't do this. But you know what? Those businesses, you said this earlier, Joe. You build a commercial business. They're not putting kids in your school. Schools are very expensive.
Yep.
So down in Woolwich and Harrison, they're fighting this battle because the people that are running the towns are saying, "My God, we don't know how we're going to balance the budget next year. But if we got this big warehouse and they're going to pay us $800,000 in taxes, we're in good shape." So there's this constant struggle and balance going on about how much do you build, where do you build? It's
Look,
I'm happy I don't have to make these
look,
decisions.
progress. As much as you want to fight it, it's a good thing. Right?
It is.
It's a good thing. Where the money is coming from and where it's going is a whole nother thing. Like when you're building, like to Mark, to your point, the houses are going to generate children, who children then go to the schools, and all those houses then generate trash that the township needs to. It's a whole cycle
And
of
then
things.
what,
And to
parks
Joe's
and-
point before, right? Parks and to Joe's point earlier, the business isn't generating that. The business is just paying the taxes on that here. So a 5-year tax abatement in the long-term, process of things is not necessarily a bad thing to give them that abatement.
I agree.
To then pay the taxes, the property taxes that are going to all the different entities. It's when you get into pilot programs, when you have a 30-year pilot for a building here that's not paying anything towards the schools or something that hurts the residents, because the state then mandates how much affordable housing you need to build and how many you need to approve, whether it's built or not, or not built. It has the possibility of being built, which then has also the possibility to have children in the schools, and it's a whole cycle that it's kind of a complicated thing for people to understand, and it's unfortunate that it is that way, because it's very impactful to all of our lives and all of our pockets. You know what I mean?
Fair share housing should be the next, or one of the upcoming podcasts, because I need to understand more of it. But literally, like, towns are mandated to
Absolutely.
build homes.
Yeah, you have phases. Like, you're in phase 3. You need to have this many.
Yeah, and 99% of the public does not understand that.
So, I know someone that sits on the planning board at Franklin Township, and they had a vote for whether or not they were going to bring in, I think, public sewer or whatever it is. But if you bring in public sewer,
that's a whole
if you
can
bring
of
in-
worms.
if
Yeah.
you bring in a public sewer, now you have to have affordable housing.
Yep.
So, in order to keep their town the way it is, stay with your septic. And that's what happened down there. But these are the there's all every decision has implications, right?
Yeah, there's a positive and negative to everything, right?
Yes. So it's what are you looking to do as a town? If you're growing, you're growing. If you're trying to stay the way you are, that is what it is.
Yeah.
One of the things, and it was almost a great segue. It had me caught it when Mark mentioned it was one of the things that came up in the conversation online was open space, and I saw some of the comments that said, I don't want to vote for this guy. He wants to build everywhere. And there was kind of now you made a great point here that like Woolwich Township built a ton of homes and no businesses. Mm-hmm. Now over here, what we've heard is we've got to keep building. We've got more business. It's going to lower our taxes. And for the most part, I thought, well, that's a great idea. But then I saw it, and I thought, we keep building more businesses. We're not seeing any breaks here, too. So I think there's a good balance on it. But, I mean,
What do you
open
mean when
space.
you say breaks? We're not seeing any breaks.
Well, the outlets. So when the outlets finally, when they finally reached the end of the pilot program, we thought, wow, we're gonna get a break. And,
Okay.
And I think they reached the end of their pilot maybe around 2020.
So revenue,
revenue, and
Okay.
we thought, all right, maybe we're gonna go a couple of years now without tax increases and stuff like that. So, my thought was, well, it's kind of almost a myth now that if you just keep building businesses, then taxpayers aren't going to have to pay more taxes. Now with the outlets, we spent a ton of money on infrastructure to build the roads and everything around the outlets. So there was, and we kind of took the hit on that too. But the discussion comes up now I guess just in Gloucester Township, since we're kind of a podcast based in Gloucester Township, is when's
the
kind
number
of
one podcast.
the number one podcast in Gloucester Township.
On this street. No.
Number one podcast on the street is when's kind of enough? And do we have what we need here? Do we just focus on rehabbing what we have? Do we leave the little bit of open space that we have left here?
That's a really tough answer there, Joe. Like I struggle myself with eminent domain. Like when that topic comes up, there's sides of me that would say we need to just get rid of such and such because it is stopping this from happening, right? And then on the other side of the coin, you say to yourself, that's their property. They're 100% in their right to do absolutely nothing with it if they want to.
Right.
It's their choice. So for me personally, I personally struggle with that. It depends on almost the mood that you're in at the moment. You know what I mean? And I don't know what you guys think of it, but it's one of those things that I
mean, you definitely.
I personally really struggle with that choice and that whole thing of progress versus being not complacent, but you know what I mean, staying in the mode. Is that
two good examples of that? The warehouse behind Target, and then the warehouse that was proposed for the Freeway Golf Course.
I don't equate that at all together. But
well,
okay,
no,
go ahead. Where are you going
so
with
it's a great example, right? The warehouse behind Target, already zoned.
I'm going to argue with you on this, but go ahead.
Already zoned for commercial. So the person that bought that land, it is unfair to that person to say,
100%. Okay,
you can't build a warehouse here. We only want houses here, or you have to leave it an open field there. That person made an investment in that property for that particular reason.
Right.
You cannot go back and say, sorry, that land you bought is now not worth what you thought it was
Unfortunately, on that same exact topic, everyone that purchased a home in that whole surrounding area purchased one under the guise of that their house was built because there was not a warehouse zoned for that. So, because of local government not doing overlays and things like that I'm sure, Mark, you're probably more familiar with this than we are with zoning overlays and things of that nature into master plans and whatnot. The master plan may have said oh, this is a warehouse zone, but then this developer came in and said, listen, I want to buy this here, and can I overlay a warehouse or what do you call townhouses in this area? And then it falls onto the township to say oh crap, we forgot that all this stuff that we overlaid was actually, zoned for a warehouse. So it's not really.
Yeah, but and the opposing side of that is like Freeway 42.
42 Freeway. That's all right.
No,
I think I own that domain too.
Freeway Golf Course.
He's talking about Freeway
Golf Course.
Freeway Golf Course is the exact opposite.
This
purchased
podcast
that
is brought to you by.
Yeah.
So Freeway Golf Course.
Freeway Golf Course was
Zoned
purchased as
residential.
R1, which means one
Right.
residential housing per acre.
Yeah. So
And then
one.
other allowed uses on that in R1 zoning is a golf course, which is what it was.
Yeah.
So they purchased that knowing that it was that. And then
So-
going to try to change that through different, we'll call them loopholes on this thing here.
Right.
But like, what do you call a variance? And Mark, you're probably more familiar with variances than I am, honestly. But different variances that could be out there. But they're trying to change it to put something else there, and which is, in my opinion, what I think everyone is fighting against. And
Yeah, I mean, this is maybe I'm just going more personal here to me, but
Okay.
if the land is zoned as residential, trying to squeak it so I think the angle was they didn't even want to change the zoning.
Right,
They didn't
right.
want to convert to zoning from residential to commercial. They just wanted to change the definition. That seems a bit beyond the boundaries of hey, it's
Right.
it's scheduled for housing, and yeah, we're gonna let warehouses in. You're not even talking stores. Maybe folks would have been a little bit more agreeable if they're hey, we want to, it's a busy road, let's put some stores along the front of it. But a warehouse just seems a little crazy there. Typically, I think that's done through redevelopment plans. That's a problem down in Harrison Township. It was farmland, residential land, and they spent 3 years creating a redevelopment zone that 100% matched the warehouse they wanted to build. And what happened was when this was in the news, 400 people show up at the planning meeting and they argue.
was that the one I saw you at down?
That
was that Harrison Township?
That was
or
Harrison, and I did a live stream. Well, here's the thing.
Yeah, I
they
remember that,
completely crafted the redevelopment zone to match the project, so they basically there's no way they could say no to it. So I not that I have a ton of experience with this type of warehouse thing, what's happening there at that Freeway Golf Course thing, it seems different to me, and I have to probably do a little bit more research on that.
Yeah, that was the one thing that was, when people started kind of getting up in arms about the Target one, kind of our thought was, well, that's kind of what it was kind of
right. In my opinion,
But-
it was zoned for that. What are you arguing?
But the golf course, we're like, look, you've got a really good chance here to fight against this because this is absolutely
yeah.
it's bad for the area. It's definitely bad for that area. That's a terrible road traffic wise, but you've got something to stand on here because yes, it is zoned for something else.
Right.
So I think when you start talking about open space and stuff like that, I think that's you've got different arguments. I mean, you can't argue against somebody that has a land full of trees that's zoned residential, but
it's zoned commercial.
yeah, but they want to put something commercial on it. So.
Yeah.
So did we answer all our questions?
I don't know.
I think that's it. I think we hit. We kind of hit everything. I mean, we talked
Joe,
about.
you started the
you
thread.
started this
What do you
whole
think, Joe?
topic here.
What's your
What do you?
closing? Is there something else you want to get out?
I know there's nothing specific. I think it was pretty constructive. Everything that we were able to go through, and a lot of good ideas and other things. I mean, my vision originally when I started looking at the downtown Blackwood area, I thought I would love the idea of a bigger box kind of not chains, but some sort of pad site,
Like an anchor.
anchor, pad site anchor restaurants coming off of 42, which is going to help keep more people shopping and help support those retail areas, keeping people around and having something other than just and it's having something other than just Dave and Buster's over there, where a dad, while the mom's going shopping, can not shop, for the lack of a better term. And then as you go down and you get to the Black Horse Pike, that's where you start. All the mom and pop shops, all the BYOBs, and so on and so forth. And you create a really, really unique restaurant experience and dining experience for people. And it's not all just dining. You have to have other things to support it, but you bring in multicultural foods. And someone, one of the ladies said, she's vegan. She's like, I would love to have a vegan restaurant that I could walk down to. And I'm like, that would be awesome. People would try vegan food and realize that it's good, but you have to offer things for people. And in order for that to ever happen, it's gonna take the town working hard to try and get businesses in here and create an environment where, these businesses can not only get set up, but they can succeed.
So when you say creating an environment, define what that means to me? Like
it's cutting the red tape. It's doing kind of, you have to we have a solicitor, right? Mm-hmm. You should be soliciting businesses. You contact businesses. Hey, we'd love to have you in our town. Just like we want to call it a Lidl. We want you. Mm-hmm. We have a spot for you. It's here. It's ready to go. Right. All you have to do is just come in. We'll figure out the terms. Come in and you just go right down the line. You find businesses that are successful in other areas, and you go, hey, have you thought about a satellite location? We would love to kind of help expand your market. We have an area that's up and coming, and we would love you to be a part of it.
Right.
And then you get out of the way.
So to circle this all the way back to our beginning, question here. When you're thinking about other businesses in other towns and why they started here, do you have anything that you can suggest of how we could have somebody start a business here versus another town? Like what kind of things would you either recommend, or what do you think?
You need guys like this gentleman here that are hawks for planning and zoning.
Yeah.
And you go around and you cherry pick. And that'd be one way of doing it. Say, hey, listen, I see that you're thinking about bringing a business, and you're bringing a Rita's or a Pop's Water Ice, whatever it may be, and you're going to bring that, but you're bringing it in right down the street from us. Have you thought about this place?
Right.
And it requires a little bit of sales. You have to be able to sell for your town. You have to be an ambassador, for your own communities.
Right. So to your point, and not to cut you off and answer your question, but people that actually care about the community itself is part of what you're saying, is what I'm hearing anyway.
Sure.
Somebody like Mark cares about his community. He knows and when I say his community, he has a pretty big community. Mark, you're all over the place. You're up and down 42
I'm not
freeway.
Even sure I know how I do it, but go ahead.
Right. But what I'm saying is it's not a public entity. It's not a private entity that's hidden from any kind of public scrutiny that's trying to get these places. It's people that care about the community and are in the community is what I hear you saying that you're promoting, right?
Yeah, yes, but I do believe there should be a liaison between the government and the end user. So
I agree 100%,
because it's difficult sometimes. It's difficult sometimes because if you speak different languages.
100%.
Having that liaison that's going to help transition, the process and help people, right. They're not going to do it for them, but being there and just kind of guide people through the way, and just being a help desk, for that process. You can't always get the permit people, that are busy. Processing,
totally
deal with phones, everything else. You create a spot, and I don't want more employees, government employees, but sometimes they're necessary.
Yeah, I think this goes back to what Mark was saying earlier about Washington Township, I believe it was. Talking about
they're going to be mad at me at Washington Township because I'm creating competition for them now.
Well, look, it is what it is. That's a good thing. Competition. That's what America was built on.
There
right?
you go.
America was. It's be better than me. That's what create competition makes better everything, right?
True.
Is my opinion.
All right, so we've hit everything. And anybody have any final points?
All right, Dad said time's up.
I am still not giving up on your Lidl coming to Blackwood.
Good.
They have 3 properties they own in South Jersey. They just made a
really.
They have Monroe. Well, they have 2. They have Blackwood and Summerdale. They own outright.
Okay.
Monroe, they were approved.
Vineland
already opened, but they just purchased up in Pennsylvania, like Bucks County, this like 300-acre property because they said we need
300 acres.
Yes, it's massive. I'm not even exaggerating because they need warehousing space. They're apparently hitting this point where they can't supply their stores fast enough, and they need to build warehousing. So my problem is, the folks at Lidl are giving me the corporate answer, but I have all this little evidence that adds up to things. I just think they're in a wait mode. They want to build
You're a
up.
conspiracy theorist.
Yes.
I didn't mean to talk to you about that. And
Well, people message me all the time. Hey, what's going on with the Blackwood Lidl? What's going on with Blackwood Lidl? And I haven't put anything out there. Maybe I should, but I haven't get up on it. But I bring that up because if that ever did happen, and you can't just rest everything on that, but if that ever did happen, does that then trigger the properties, the construction properties that are sitting there? Do they?
it absolutely will.
Yeah, I think it would
imagine.
too. Yeah.
I mean,
Petco will pop up next to it, and things like that. So
yeah, that would be huge.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, I thank you all for coming here on this podcast. It is. I thought it was a fantastic conversation. We're almost at the 2-hour mark here, so
2 hours.
thank you guys.
Are you kidding
for
me?
Thanks for coming back again, Mark. After that disaster that I did, hopefully this recorded.
So you need a computer monitor that has just a clock, like the rundown clock.
We just bought a brand new.
Oh,
clock.
you have it?
We
Okay.
bought a brand new clock
Right here.
Had no idea where we were. I thought we were on hour 7.
It's a workout.
No, we are at we're at 1 hour and 51 minutes. If you folks
I'm gonna look like
haven't
that guy.
subscribed to the podcast,
Who stole my photo?
please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and so that you know when we're on. And that's it, man.
And my eyes are a little glassy right now, not because of this Voodoo Ranger beer. It's the lighting down here. It's very warm, and I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Mark. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, and see you guys soon.